Well, this is going to be slightly different than my normal videos. I'm back at work, and just before I left, I went and had a meal with a good old friend of mine, and he remarked that every time I texted him, I spelled tomorrow wrong. And for those of you who have had the chance to talk with me and seen me type, will know that I'm absolutely an atrocious speller, which I coyly say is because I went to public schools, which is true. I did go to public schools, but I don't think that's the sole reason why I'm a bad speller. And what I'm going to about talk to here is not the sole reason I'm a bad speller either, but that is that, quite honestly, I do not hear the difference between most vowels uh, when they're used, at least within a word. And that when I try and spell things phonetically, and when I do that, that's not the correct spelling a lot of the time. And there are a number of words that the one when I'm writing, when I write at length, it's almost always about politics or government, and the word that always screws me up is bureaucracy. Bureaucracy. I use that word a great deal, more than most people do, but I cannot spell it. I can think, and when I try and spell it in like a word, like a spell checking program, what I type is so far off that it doesn't know. It doesn't even have a guess. You know how they'll always have a guess, and then for me, whenever I do that, which is quite a bit, the next thing I'll do is I'll go on Google and I'll type what I'm trying to say, and then related results. And bureaucracy doesn't even work then. It comes up with like Botox or something like that. But I will say that I have a linguistic alibi here, which, even though it's probably not correct, I'm going to stick with it. I think I may be a good example of a phenomenon known as the Northern Cities Vowels Shift, or the Northern Urban Center Vowel Shift. Apparently, in the North Midwest United States, I guess from Buffalo on over to Chicago, uh, there is there has been in the last couple decades kind of a shift where, I don't know, vowels kind of lose their distinction in the way that they are heard and the way that they are spoken. Now I know all the vowels A, E, I, O, and U, and I can pronounce them differently and I can hear them differently, but they oftentimes, if you ask me how to spell it, I mean, it could be either way. Uh, you could spell it with either letter, and if I were to read it, why not? And I don't know. I don't think any of my subscribers are linguists, but if any of them have any, or happen to be, or any linguists happen to see this video, because I'll give it a provocative title to them. Do I have a Northern Cities vowel shift? And this goes even more general. Do I have an accent? I mean, obviously I do. Everybody has an accent, but when I talk, does it sound like, oh, that's weird, or that's an unusual way of speaking? I mean, honestly, I always wonder that, because I hear it in other people when I listen, whenever I meet somebody new, and I kind of like to know where they're from, and hey, what's that? I mean, the guy I was working with here originally, he was from Kentucky, and he kind of had a little bit of a southern accent, but when he would talk to like his dad or somebody else from his hometown, he would like lose it, and it would become like 100 times more thick than it is. Well, not 100 times, but markedly more pronounced than normal. And when I first went to work in Utah, a lot of people would look at me like, "Where are you from?" Like, from Michigan, obviously. Duh. Who isn't from Michigan? Uh, I used to think that the accent I had was the one that's in the news all the time, but that is actually probably not correct. Although that's also changing, because the news anchors are not all coming from the same place anymore. There's actually a lot more diversity there. Oh, my voice just changed. So, I wonder what I should title this video. I mean, geographically speaking, I'm from Michigan is, for those of you who don't know, Michigan is a peninsula shaped like this. Is that backwards? It's like a mitten. And like Detroit Detroit's down here. The Straits of Mackinac, which is the liberal, free market think tank that Stefan Molyneux always calls Mackinac. Straits of Mackinac are up here. This is Lake Huron, Lake Michigan, Lake Erie, Lake Superior's up here. Anyway, I'm from this region here, which is geographically kind of in the middle, but demographically in the north, since there's a heavy concentration of the population in the southern third of the state, and I live north of there, and on the more western side. Although actually I'm very close to the peninsular divide, the area where the water tables divide between flowing into Lake Huron and Lake Michigan, which is not, it's not like a cool, like the continental divide, because there's no mountains in Michigan. It's like, oh, this bog drains that way and that bog drains the other way. But I don't talk like I'm from Detroit, but I think people from Detroit speak Ebonics mostly, or they have a strong urbanese that I obviously lack because I'm much more rural in my proclivities. But yeah, just asking. I know my subscribers come from all over the place within the United States and without, so this is kind of more just what do I sound like? Can you tell where I'm from? Does my accent sound retarded? I mean, there's a lot of what's the word? Mm, I look like an idiot because I can't think of it. Uh, there's a lot of insinuation with certain accents or implications, like, oh, he has a strong English accent that, like, but like the Queen's English, not like the people who like work at the docks. Then that's like sophisticated. And then some Southern accents are like that, but other Southern accents are like redneck. And what do I sound like a redneck, or do I sound? I don't know. Do my vowels all slur together? Can you distinguish them? I know, like, I don't know. This isn't vowels. This is consonants, but it's not just me or my area. But has anyone noticed the degree to which double T's are pronounced with a D sound? Uh, I was alerted to this by a coworker who was Ethiopian, and she was telling me that we Americans did not know how to speak English because she spent about a month trying to figure out what the hell water was. Water, Wader, because that's what everyone would say. I need a water, water, water. And it never occurred to me that, sure enough, when I speak, when almost everyone I know ever speaks, it's pronounced with a D. And this goes for most words that have double T's in the middle. So butter, better, nutter. Those are all pronounced with D's. Now that's not a vowel shift, obviously. That's a consonant shift. Uh, but I don't know. Also, I do think I am a little dyslexic or something. I mean, when I was in college, I was actually in a history class, and we had to do a test that was basically just you just write, and I wrote. There's no fill in the blanks or anything like that. You just had to write, like, I don't know, 20 pages or something in the class, and I did, and I got a really good grade. The history professor's like, "Oh, you really know all this stuff," and but then he's like, "But you have dyslexia," and I'm like, "What? No one had ever told me that before." And I was like, "Here I am." I was probably a junior in college, and this is the first time I'm hearing about this. Uh, but there are things I can't hear. This is going to sound kind of weird, but not when I was a kid, I still like it. Dragon Ball Z is one of my favorite shows ever. Not to get this too tangential, but one of the characters in that is a guy named Berter. Berter, spelled with a B. I cannot hear that. It always sounds to me like Verter with a V. Now, I'm assuming when I say that, you can hear the difference. Verter, Berter. But I cannot hear that when they say it, at least in the show. In fact, when I would go online and try and like research his power level, not to sound too nerdy, I couldn't understand why are they spelling it wrong. It's spelled with a V. His name is Verter, but it was really Berter. And I guess the difference between a B and a V is very, very small. And I can make I can make it when I read it. I don't read B's like V's. At least thought I didn't. But ooh, uh, apparently not, because and that's not the only time that's happened to me. So well, dyslexia is not a linguistic thing, so I don't know why I brought that in here. I guess I'm talking about my own speech habits. I might as well bring it up. So anyway, let me know what you think. What's my accent? Even though I already told you what it is. What does it sound like? What were your impressions before I told you? Uh, where would you have placed me? Do my consonants slur? Uh, and do I have a Northern Cities vowel shift? Has anyone even heard of this? Is there a cure if it's a disease? Let me know.